China has begun 3 days of military exercises in the Taiwan Strait.
Taiwan condemned Beijing's drills as a threat to regional stability and security.
Japan unveiled a new national security strategy.
Prime Minister Michiyo Ishida is warning that the invasion of Ukraine could be replicated in East Asia.
December 2022, Japan unveiled its largest military buildup since World War II, taking aim at China's growing military assertiveness in the region. But Japan's military expansion and efforts to contain China had begun long before that. Thousands of kilometers away from Tokyo, on the southern tip of the Japanese archipelago, new military bases have been sprouting up along a chain of remote islands near Taiwan. I'm Michiyo Ishida. I have been given access to Japan's new military bases along the Ryukyu Islands in the south while there. I witnessed Japan's efforts to put up a defense barrier in the East China Sea as tensions brew in the Taiwan Strait. Yonaguni is a tiny, sparsely populated island located at the westernmost end of Japan. It's so small you can circle the entire island in an hour's drive. Locals used to say 2 rifles were enough to protect its entire population of 1,500 people. But Yonaguni's size belies its growing strategic importance. Yonaguni is an inhabited Japanese island closest to Taiwan. It's just 110 kilometers from here to Taiwan. And the local residents here tell me that on a clear day, Taiwan is visible around that point. In 2016, the tranquil mood on the island quietly changed with the establishment of Camp Yonaguni. It currently hosts the Ground Forces Coastal Observation Unit, but the military base will eventually expand to include an electronic warfare operations unit and possibly a surface-to-air missile unit too. Camp Yonaguni is just one of several new military bases that rose up across Japan's southern islands stretching to Taiwan. On the other end of the Ryukyu Island chain, on Amami Oshima, another military base opened in 2019. Like Camp Yonaguni, Camp Amami is located in an area considered by many as the new front line in Japan's national defense. Defense capability in the southern island, or the Nansei Shoto, was close to zero except in Naha and Okinawa. Now, in recent years, new garrisons have been opening. In 2019, Camp Amami and Camp Setouchi opened. One common feature on the new military bases along the Ryukyu Island chain is the deployment of these truck-mounted missile launchers. Officials said the deployment of these surface-to-air missile units will enhance Japan's deterrence power against attacks on the southern islands. I sat down with Colonel Masaaki Hidaka, who is in charge of all 630 ground forces in Amami Oshima. I asked him about the strategic importance of Camp Amami.
九州本土と沖縄本島の間ちょうど約300キロぐらいそれぞれですね離隔した地域になりますので、九州本土と沖縄本島をつなぐという意味でこれは通信であったりその物資兵站面ですね後方支援の物資を運ぶといった意味のサポートが違ってくるというふうに思います。3月16日に、奄美駐屯地の業務隊というのが新編されました。でその業務隊といいますのは、どちらかといいますとその部隊が作戦を遂行する上でその後方支援を担う専属の部隊でして地元の企業ですとか自治体病院そういったものの方々と連携をして作戦を我々を支えてくれると。
In Japan, military service is not mandatory. As of March 2022, over 230,000 serve in air, ground, maritime brigades. Camp Amami is one of 160 bases that the Ground Self-Defense Force operates across Japan. is the third base for Amami native Ren Ijichi. He is proud of what he does today, assigned to operate a mid-range multi-purpose missile launcher.
私が高校生になってテレビやパソコン等で、自衛隊の活動や特に新潟中越沖地震を、の放送を私が見ました。そこで、国民のために身を挺して活躍をしている自衛隊員の姿を見て、公務員の中で特に災害派遣や国防という崇高な任務につけるここの自衛隊を、志望し入隊しました。
Shintaro Azuma, also born and raised here, has recently been posted to the communication department on Camp Amami. He said he was strongly recommended by his family to join the forces.
平成21年に奄美大島で豪雨災害っていうのがありまして、その際にすごい、私もその時に入隊したんですけど、その時すごい地元の方が、感謝してて、それ以降すごいこの奄美大島の人たちは自衛隊の賛成の方が増えたと思っています。
Officials here say applications to enlist are rising in Amami Oshima, unlike other places where there is a serious shortage of personnel as Japan seeks to expand the force. Currently, 17% of the 630 personnel stationed on the island are local residents.
駐屯地ができたことによって、職業の一つとして捉えるようになったということと、これまで陸上自衛隊はなかったですが、海上自衛隊と航空自衛隊がありましたので、多少なりとも自衛隊に対する意識はありまして。
In the 70 years of its existence, the Self-Defense Force has never fought in a war, as Japan's pacifist constitution bans them from operating in war zones. Other than going to the battlefield, the Self-Defense Force carries out all kinds of missions. They do peacekeeping activities outside combat areas around the world. They travel to disaster zones in Japan and beyond, searching for missing persons. But joining the SDF in the immediate post-war period was not popular. Many Japanese held the view that the existence of the SDF was against the pacifist constitution, but public sentiment shifted drastically in the immediate aftermath of the 2011 tsunami and earthquake. Images of SDF personnel rescuing victims while gently assisting the injured in disaster zones earned them the public's respect. And a survey released by the Cabinet Office this March showed 90% of respondents said they think the image of the SDF was good. But Japan's ambitious military buildup has brought the Self-Defense Force to the forefront of public attention. Not everyone welcomes their arrival. Japan is fortifying a string of remote islands in its southwest. To find out more about the military buildup, from the main Honshu island where Tokyo lies, I traveled to Amami Oshima, where two new military bases, Camp Amami and Camp Setouchi, were built in 2019. I also visited Ishigaki, where a new military base was just opened in March 2023. I went as far as Yonaguni, a tiny island located just 110 kilometers from Taiwan. I was told missile units capable of reaching as far as China will be deployed here by 2026. Officials say Japan will be safer with a strengthened deterrence power. But the militarization has stoked fears among local residents. Hidden behind the stunning natural scenery of Amami Islands are painful memories of past wars. The islands were part of the ancient Ryukyu kingdom. Like neighboring Okinawa, Amami was placed under U.S. military rule after the end of World War II. Today, the islands remain culturally and politically distant from the big Japanese cities on Honshu and Kyushu, even as they once again become the front line of Japan's defense. Amami native Eriko Minayoshi told me how her heart sank when she first learned about Camp Amami and Setouchi.
うちの父がちょうど戦争体験者で、はい、名瀬にいて、その爆撃機に攻撃されてかろうじて生き残った。で父からいろいろそういう話を聞いて、昔のその戦争ですごく奄美は結構苦しんだんですね。その奄美がなぜまたこういうふうになってしまったのかっていうのは私は非常に心配してます。
But in general, Amami residents' opposition towards hosting the new military bases is mild compared to another island. Further south in Okinawa Prefecture, Camp Ishigaki became the latest installment of Japan's new military bases in its southwest. With the new garrison, Japan's defense deployment on its southern island is considered complete. The expansion was taking place despite strong opposition from locals. Distrust of the central government runs deep in Okinawa. In the month before and after the end of World War II, over 3,600 islanders died of starvation and malaria when the Japanese army forced them to evacuate to an uninhabitable area. During the U.S. military rule, residents had to give up their land to make way for U.S. military bases. They fear history is repeating itself. For nearly a decade, Hidetoshi Uchihara, a former magazine writer, has been actively involved in the struggle against a new military base in Ishigaki. In 2018, he decided to run for a seat in the local assembly to draw national attention to the issue.
8年間の間、石垣市議会でもいろいろ問題を取り上げてきたんですが、特に環境の問題だったり、近くに住んでいる人たちの生活に何かあった時の保障体制といったものが何一つ取り決めがないまま、駐屯地の敷地の中には弾薬庫が4棟置かれるという話なんですが、この弾薬庫がもし爆発した場合、自爆だったり暴発だったり攻撃を受けた場合、周辺の集落が真っ先に被害を受けるし、他の国の事例を見ていてもおそらく石垣島全島が大変危険にさらされる。
Shiro Hanatani's family used to be one of the largest farmland owners in Ishigaki. The 40-year-old gave up parts of the family business to focus on anti-militarization activities. Mr. Hanatani said instead of deploying troops and missile units, Japan should seek peace by having more frequent exchanges with China.
軍事力があるところが戦場になるんじゃないかという考え方でやってます。ですので、これからは極力ですね、この、駐屯地に反対というよりはこの駐屯地を戦争に向かわせないような運用の仕方、そして、戦争になりうるような国と、いかに話し合っていけるかというところを訴えていきたいなと思っています。
But with the geopolitical waters around Japan becoming increasingly volatile, proponents of the new military bases said Japan has no choice but to bolster its defense in the East China Sea. As the US-China rivalry plays out over Taiwan, the waters in the East China Sea near the self-ruled island have become increasingly volatile. The Senkakus, as they are known in Japan, are a group of tiny uninhabited islets and rocks in the East China Sea. China calls the island chain, which it also claims, the Diaoyus. Since a decade ago, China began sustaining a heavy presence around the Senkakus. It started as a form of protest after Japan nationalized some of the islands and triggered a geopolitical crisis. Over the years, the presence around the islands grew. So was the frequency of the cat and mouse chase with the Japan Coast Guard. Technically, the Senkakus are administered by Ishigaki, Japan's southernmost city, which lies less than 200 kilometers from the islands. But since their nationalization, the central government in Tokyo has reinforced its administrative control over the islands. Private groups were banned from visiting as tensions with China flared up. Ishigaki Mayor Yoshitaka Nakayama won his fourth term in 2022 on a platform that supported Japan's building of new military bases in Ishigaki. With incidents of Chinese ship incursions around the Senkakus gathering pace again in recent years, he had been trying to visit the islands. His latest trip there was in January 2023.
石垣の場合は上陸をお願いしてたんですけども、国が国有地なので国が認めない状況ではありました。ただ、今回の調査、また前回の調査に関して言えば、国の方も調査することは問題ないということで認めてもらいましたんで、それは上陸はできなかったんですけども、周辺海域まで島のすぐそばまで行って、調査してきました。で、何もしないっていう状況を取ると、それはもうおそらく相手の思うつぼになりますんで、もう相手が言ってること主張に対して自分たちのいや違うということを明確に示さないといけないので。
To fend off the growing presence of the Chinese vessels, the Japan Coast Guard had over the years expanded its fleet in Ishigaki, turning the port here into the most congested in Japan with Coast Guard vessels. At the Ishigaki port on a rainy day, when fishermen and the Coast Guard were forced to stay on land due to the weather, I counted 12 of their vessels. Today, only fishing boats are allowed to go near the waters near the Senkakus, known to be rich fishing grounds. Most are only able to do so with the protection of the Japan Coast Guard. Ishigaki fisherman Hidemitsu Naka is frustrated that each time he tries to fish near the Senkakus, he has to be escorted by the Japanese patrol ships.
中国もそんなにね、交戦よこすほどのものでもないと思うし、自分なんかはもうただただ素直にただ向こうで漁がしたいだけっちゅうだけだから、いなければいないで漁はしやすいだろうけど、それによってまた海保も警備しないといけないっちゅうこの現状が、いつまで続くのかなっちゅう感じですね。
While Mr. Naka braves his way into the disputed waters mainly for his livelihood, there are others who want to sail close just to make a point. Tadashi Nakamine, who owns a diving shop in Ishigaki, occasionally sails with Mr. Naka to the Senkakus as a member of the local fishery union. He has landed several times on the islets with a group of activists.
過去にね、日本人が住んでたっていうその跡、住居跡とか工場跡とかそういうのも全部見てきたんで、で上陸してすぐ島の岩にね国旗が書かれてるんですよ。それ見た時にはやっぱりやはりここは日本だなというふうには思いましたけどね。あの頃はもう別にそんな規制も厳しくなく、もちろん中国の公船も全く来てないという状況だったから特に問題なく行けたんですけど。
Witnessing all that with Mr. Nakamine at the time was Hitoshi Nakama, a construction worker turned activist and politician. Ever since his election as a local councillor to the Ishigaki Assembly in the 1990s, the 74-year-old has been making frequent trips to the Senkakus. In recent years, after the central government restricted access to the waters near the Senkakus, he was only able to do so under the umbrella of the Ishigaki Fishery Union. He posted what he filmed during his expeditions on social media to raise awareness among Japanese of the situation there.
尖閣周辺の海域がですね、中国海警によってですね、もう今乗っ取られているような現状があるんですよ。やっぱりそこのなんていうんですか、状況、そういうこともその国民に知らしめたいっていうのが僕の考えでね、それで今ずっと続けてやっています。だんだん悪くなって、もうやがてその小競り合いが始まるんじゃないかなって思ってます。
保安庁も出ないわけなんですけども。
Satoshi Morimoto had a front row seat when the Senkaku nationalization crisis took place a decade ago. At that time, the scholar was briefly appointed as Japan's defense minister in the Noda cabinet, becoming the first non-politician to take up the post. He explains the undercurrent of tensions in the East China Sea.
台湾に、何か緊急の事態が発生する場合に中国は尖閣にもっと近寄ってきて、日本やアメリカの防衛力が尖閣の方に向いて、島を守らないといけないという状況になることを、そういう状態を作ることによって台湾海峡の周りにおける日米の防衛力をできるだけ空白状態にする。まさにその南シナ海に中国が入ってきたのはフィリピンから米軍が去り。
The Taiwan Strait is considered by some as the most dangerous flashpoint in the US-China rivalry. Given its position in the East China Sea and its alliance with the US, Japan will be caught in the middle in the event of a military conflict. What security role will Japan play 10 years, 20 years from now? Will it revise its pacifist constitution? Well, it may depend on the tension buildup in this part of the world.